David says, Dear Joe, Al, and Andy, my wife will have a CalSTRS pension of approximately $3,000 a month. My Social Security at 67 is projected to be $2,900 and about $2,000 at 62. We have $1.5 million IRA and $500,000 in a brokerage account. Since she will be subject to the windfall elimination provision, she will not be able to claim much of a spousal benefit. I believe she can just get the minimum $200 and the rest is lost because of WEP. In looking at the long run, I think it would be better for me to claim Social Security at 62 rather than use the IRA/brokerage to live on, thus allowing the IRA/brokerage to grow as much as possible in case I die before she does, because if I delay Social Security until 67 or even 70, the government pension offset will restrict her from getting much of a survivor Social Security benefit. Am I looking at this correctly? Her pension and my Social Security at 62 would cover our living expenses easily. We have no debts. We live comfortably on $40,000 a year now. We both retired last year, me at 60 and her at 58. We are using the brokerage account to cover expenses while we wait to turn on pension and Social Security.
I guess the question really is referring to when David should take Social Security. There's something called the windfall elimination provision and the government pension offset. You want to take a crack at what those are?
Yeah, those are two different portions of Social Security where essentially people who do not pay into Social Security but have a pension. But if they have worked in a previous job where they did pay into Social Security, they may have a benefit. But the idea is they don't want you to double dip, right? They don't want you getting Social Security and a pension in which that you to get more income. So with windfall elimination, you will actually reduce your Social Security benefit if you are eligible to take one. So I think the maximum is like $440 or something a month. Whereas with government offset provision or GPO, that's more around like if you inherit a pension, like a survivor benefit or something, and you are already receiving a pension, again, you can't double dip. So there's a formula. I think it's like 2/3 of the benefit. If 2/3 of Social Security is greater, the pension is greater. It's some weird convoluted calculation.
It's very complicated how they compute it. And I would say at least from what I know, it sounds like it's an egregious provision, but it's actually meant there to be fair so that people don't double dip. And I think the way that they compute it actually does make a certain amount of sense. But the point is, if you have a government pension and you had a job where you paid into Social Security, you're not going to get all your Social Security benefit, right? So that's the problem. And then if you pass away, your spouse, if he or she has the government pension, then that's when the government pension offset comes in, where as a survivor, you don't receive the full benefit either. Correct. So I think the question about should you take it at 62 versus 67 or 70, without running a Social Security analysis, which I think will give you a more definitive answer, I think your thinking is correct, David, because the reason why you would wait to take the greater benefit, right, is for you receiving a greater benefit and your spouse receiving a greater benefit. And it seems you'll both be subject to these provisions where you wouldn't receive that greater benefit. So then maybe you think about it, taking it earlier. What do you think, Kyle?
Yeah, I think, in a perfect world, everyone would love to delay it as long as they can, but sometimes that's just not the reality. Just kind of play devil's advocate. It might make sense for him to actually try and delay it, because it sounds like if he's got $2,000 he can take at 62, he's got, looks like 2 million liquid. He might be able to bridge the gap.
Well, right? he can bridge the gap, but he's wondering whether he should.
Yeah.
Right? So maybe another way to think about it is if your spouse has a much longer life expectancy than you, then it probably doesn't make sense to delay it, take it earlier. However, if it's reversed, if you believe you're going to be receiving the benefit and your spouse isn't, then you go back to the break-even calculations of around age 80. Maybe think about it that way.
Yeah, no, I would agree with that.
Yeah. So at any rate, that's we have this thing called a Social Security Analyzer. And in fact, I'm going to make this offer, Andy, for anyone listening that would like us to run their Social Security Analyzer. Go ahead and write us, email us, and you can tell them how, and we'll run that for you at no cost.
The email address is info@purefinancial.com. Super easy to remember. Info, I-N-F-O, @purefinancial.com for your Social Security analyzer.
To give you an idea, and I'm in the business, I had our planning department run it for me.
Mhm.
It's just too complicated to try to think, because there's so many, it's so complicated. They're, depending upon, the books you read or the people you listen to, there's like 568 combinations of ways to take Social Security.
Right.
And it's like, how do you know which one to do? It's very difficult.
Are you prepared for retirement? Schedule a free financial assessment with an experienced financial professional right online at purefinancial.com.